if you feel safe. If you'd like to keep your mask on, you're welcome to. User's choice. So I thought today we'd work on the psoas. So the psoas is the muscle that goes from it's a fascinating muscle. It connects the hips to the torso, and it goes to the back of the floating ribs. So like if you could saw through me, it would be like on the front side of these back ribs, and then on the upper, the T12, which is the base, the beginning of your thoracic vertebrae, and then it attaches on the front side of all the vertebrae down to the sacrum, and then it comes forward, it attaches onto the ilions, your hip bones, and then it comes to your inner thighs. And muscles get sore when you use it, so like when you walk or bike or run. Anytime you lift your leg, your muscle is strengthening, but it also gets trained to be locked short. So if it's like a tight muscle, it's like you use it a lot. But also, if you just sit in a position where the two attachment sites come closer together and you don't stretch them away from each other, it will just learn that it should hold itself in a short position. So sitting down, driving, sitting on a couch, like so much of what we do is training the psoas to be short. And when the psoas is short, it can hold the body in two positions. So the psoas mainly attaches to the inner thighs and the back of the floating ribs. So you can either have your thighs backwards, which is like where we want them, but it will pull, a short psoas will pull the rib cage forward. So this is like my chronic psoas condition. Other people, their psoas will be locked short this way. So the ribs are back, which is kind of ideal, but it pulls the inner thighs forward. And it's really sneaky because you can try to adjust it, and then, oh, I'll just move my thighs back. And your thighs will move back, and you'll be like, oh, I did it, I'm awesome. But you won't realize your ribs have popped forward. Or you pull your ribs back and be like, oh, I did it, this wasn't too hard, and you don't realize your hips have popped forward. So you need, in order to lengthen the psoas, you need to put them both in position and then stretch them away from each other. I was researching and trying to write an article on this, like poses to stretch the psoas, and they don't address that at all. It's just like do a lunge. But really, you can stretch the psoas in any yoga position if you're aware of the attachment sites and put them kind of in their original position and lengthen. So that's what we'll do today. So take an upright seated posture, your eyes closed. And take a few rounds of breath and settle into your experience. And then begin to bring your awareness to what you hear in the room, what you may feel in the room. Becky, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me online. Perfect. Whatever you're noticing in the room, see if you can mentally note it and then allow it to have less of a grip on your attention. And then do the same thing with your internal sensations. So maybe a body part is talking to you, or you're experiencing a strong emotion or a strong thought pattern. Can you identify it, label it, and then release it from having as much of a hook on your attention? This process lets us become more attuned to what's going on in the present moment and less hooked onto these other things. And bring your awareness to your breath and begin to breathe long and deep. As you inhale, bringing the breath all the way down into the lungs as the belly expands. And as you exhale, drawing the belly button towards the spine as you exhale. The psoas is also connected to the diaphragm, the breathing muscle, through connective tissue and fascia. So when the breath isn't very long and deep, when the breath is more up in the chest, it signals the psoas that you're in danger and it tenses up. Breathing long and deep is a way to release the psoas. All right, draw your hands in front of your heart. Press your palms together, lift your chest up to your thumbs. We'll tune in by chanting Om one time, the Anusara invocation one time through if you know it, and then one more Om. Let's take a full inhale. Hold the breath at the top, lengthen through your spine. And then exhale. And then we'll chant. Inhale. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchitananda Mortaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. When you're ready, keep your eyes closed, release your hands to your thighs. And begin to bring your awareness to your psoas now, filling it down by your inner thigh where it connects, and then up, connecting to the front of each vertebrae to the floating ribs. And then on the back of the floating ribs, notice if the psoas pulls your rib cage forward or if it pulls your thighs up and you round your back. See if you can apply the opposite more so you get longer. All right, let your eyes open. Come to lay down on your back, soles of the feet on the floor. This is like a constructive rest position. It's a good way of bringing your awareness to the tendencies of this hip flexor muscle. So from your inner thighs to the front side of your back floating ribs, notice if your ribs are pulled significantly up from the floor, or if your back of the ribs are pulled towards the floor, but the pelvis is pulled up towards your face. And without adjusting your body, begin to breathe and imagine that you're releasing the psoas. When I do this, I like to imagine there's like a tarrus sludge that gets released from this muscle. This muscle is also deeply connected to your emotions and your fears. But it's connected to the reptilian brain. So if the psoas tightens, it tells the body you're in fear, and it courses adrenaline and cortisol into your body. And also when you get in fear, it triggers the psoas. So there's this like negative cycle that happens that keeps this psoas chronically tight. Okay, now begin to push the pelvis more to the floor. Inner thighs draw towards the floor. Pubis pushes forward while you draw the back of the floating ribs down. So you just stay in the same position, but make these minor adjustments. Back of the ribs down, inner thighs forward. Keep that and pull your right knee into your chest. And notice if your butt rounded up and the pubic bone came closer to your face, keep pushing that forward and down. Or if your ribs popped up to your right thigh and pull the front of your floating ribs down. Keep this and then extend your left leg forward, left heel on the floor. Flex your left foot. The inner left thigh muscle rotates down to the floor, and then try to push out through your left foot, especially the inside edge of your left foot as you pull the right knee down towards your face or your chest. Then take your left hand to the top of your left thigh and open your right knee out towards the right. Only open the right knee to the right as much as you can maintain the left hip pushing down to the floor. Stretch your left arm up and towards the wall behind you.
So when we reach with our arms, we can do it in a way that helps lengthen the torso. So if our psoas is put towards its neutral position, ribs back, thigh down, and we stretch through the limbs, we can get a deeper stretch through this muscle. Bring the right knee back towards the center, and we're going to do a twist. So the left hand will grab the right knee and pull it across the body. You'll roll onto the outside edge of your left hip. Left pinky toe will come to the floor. Right arm can open towards the right. And try to crunch the ribs down. So you're bringing more of the back ribs down into the floor as you push your butt towards the right wall. All right, come back through center, bring soles of the feet to the floor. And do some pelvic tilts with your butt. So pushing the sitting bones down, pubic rocks forward. This should lift your low back off the floor. And then scoop your butt under, pubic bone comes towards the face, low back flattens. Going back and forth. And then finding a more neutral place where you have a curve under your low back, but it's not too dramatic. Ribs draw in if yours pop out. And then pull the left knee to the chest. And extend the right leg forward towards the front of the room. Think about pushing with your right toe straight up to the sky, pinky toe up to the sky, big toe up to the sky, inner thigh down. Think about stretching your right inner edge of the foot forward as you pull the left knee towards the chest. Maybe stretch the right arm up towards the ceiling or the wall behind you without extending the ribs up too much in a back bend, and stretch and see if you can get a subtle stretch in these hip flexor muscles. All right, move into the twist. The right hand will pull the left knee across the body. Left arm can extend out towards the left. Oh, we forgot to open it up. I'll hit that again. Or if you've already twisted, you can hit it again. If you're in the twist, let your right pinky toe come to the floor too. And then do the one you haven't done. So if you open to the left knee to the left, move into the twist. If you moved into the twist, come back through center and open the left knee out to the left. Rib in, inner thighs down, butt even to the floor. All right, come back through center, extend both of your legs forward on the floor. Put your hands on the front of your hip points. And then notice if you can tell if one hip is more elevated than the other. We tend to have one psoas that will be more tight than the other, and that psoas will normally pull the hip forward. And then do the same thing on the ribs. Put your hands on the front of your ribs and just notice if you have one that's more popped forward than the other. Yoga could be called the yoga of awareness because we learn to be more aware in our practice, and that benefits us off of our mat. Really nice. Pull your knees into your belly and then either rock and roll up to table or roll over to your side and come up to table. All right, hands underneath the shoulders. So let's come into cow position. The other day I heard this called cat position, and they called cat position camel. Have you heard that, cat and camel? So this is a good example of a locked tight psoas that pulls the ribs forward while the thighs are back. Now go into cat or camel, whatever you prefer. This is another example of a tight psoas. It would pull the inner thighs forward while the ribs are in. So we want to find a neutral position to this. So keep your ribs in, so the back of the ribs expand up to the sky. Push your thighs towards the back of the room, but not so much you go into a back bend, and integrate your shoulders. So you're coming into a neutral spine. A neutral spine normally takes some effort because you're having to balance out your tendency. Extend your right leg towards the wall behind you. Hips are leveled, Inner right thigh rotates up to the ceiling, leg is straight. And notice if your ribs drop down to the floor. Keep your ribs drawing in and then stretch your left arm forward, thumb up to the sky. With as neutral of the spine as you can do, stretch forward with your left arm and back with your right foot. And see if you can get a pull across your torso. Great, come back to table, readjust into your neutral position. And then extend your second leg back. Left outer hip rotates to the floor as the inner left thigh rotates up, and then the right arm comes forward. Pushing strongly down through the limbs that are on the floor as you stretch longer across the body. Awesome, come back through table. Walk the knees back a little bit, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. You can walk your dog out here a little bit. And then come into more stillness. Hands are strongly rooted to the floor. Put a little bend in your knees. Engage the muscles of the inner thighs by squeezing the feet towards each other, and then try to spin your inner thighs up towards the wall behind you. And if your psoas didn't change length, it will take your belly closer to your thighs. So can you pull the belly away from the thighs a little bit as you lengthen the thighs back? Right, look forward to come forward, bottom of your exhale, bend your knees and step or hop your feet forward, Uttanasana, standing forward fold. Inhale, take your hands to your thighs and stretch your spine forward. Long spine. And then exhale, forward fold. Push down through your feet, come all the way up and stretch. And then exhale, hands through heart center. Bring your hands down by your sides and see if you can tell if your position tends to be more like this, thighs forward, ribs back, or like this, thighs back, but ribs forward. And see if you can come more neutral. So one way you can do that is try to make a neutral pelvis and then a neutral rib cage. And then keep that, stretch your arms up. And stretch so much that you pull length through your torso. Turn your palms together, take your left hand towards your right wrist. Without pulling your right shoulder out of the socket, stretch up and over to the left. Push down powerfully through the left foot. And think about spinning the inner thighs back, pubis down, pulling the rib cage forward, and pulling more through your arms. Push down more through the right foot, and then come back up through center. Switch sides. Stretch up and over to the right. Nice, come back up through center, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, stretch your spine forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Try to get the round out of your back. And then plant your hands, step back to plank, top of a push-up. Coordinate the movement so that when you push through your hands, your floating ribs lift up. As you lift your sit bones up slightly. And then knees up or down, lower down, chaturanga. All right, come all the way down to your belly, point to your toes. So for cobra, cobra is one of the best poses to lengthen your psoas, but it doesn't work as well if you just straighten your arms. So see if you can pull your belly to your spine and then push through your hands so your ribs hover a few centimeters. So not very much. And then use your hands, drag your hands backwards to try to pull your spine forward. And then curl your shoulders up. Floating ribs in, inner thighs towards your feet. Downward facing dog. Then you can plant your hands, lift your butt up to the sky. So a tight psoas can cause sciatic pain, hip degenerative, that word that you all know, that I can't say. Disc pain, knee pain, shoulder pain. So it's a good thing to pay attention to. Inhale, stretch your right leg up to the sky. Notice if when your leg goes back, your chest drops, and keep your ribs in and your crown of the head lengthening towards your thumbs. And then take a big step forward, right foot in between your hands. You can help it forward with your hand if it doesn't make it. Fingertips on the floor or to blocks. Spin your inner thighs up and back as though you're trying to reach your butt up high. And then take your hands to your hips and lift up. So this is two examples of what a lunge would look at like with a tight psoas. Ribs forward, or see if both of them aren't stretching the psoas. So inner thighs back, ribs in, and then use your limbs, push through your feet as you stretch up through your arms. Left hand holds the right wrist. Take a little side stretch up and over to the left. So this pose especially stretches the left hip. Left floating rib down, left inner thigh back. Stretch out through the left heel and out through your left fingertips. Right, come back up through center. Plant your hands, step back, downward facing dog. Second side, inhale, left leg up. Keep your hips squared to the floor, push through your hands, then come forward. Left foot forward between your hands. Lift your booty up, and then push through your feet to come all the way up. Remembering that not just the posture can help release the psoas, so can our breath. So the more you can consciously breathe slow, the more it will signal the psoas it can relax. Front knee over your ankle, push out through your right heel, ribs in, and then right hand holds the left wrist, stretch up and over to the right. Great, come back up. Plant your hands. You can stay in downward facing dog or move through a vinyasa, coming down through chaturanga. Cobra. In your cobra, stay for maybe a moment more and pull the ribs in and pull further forward. Downward facing dog when you're ready. Inhale, look forward, bottom of your exhale, bend your knees and step or hop your feet forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, lengthen, hop halfway up, and then exhale, belly in, fold all the way forward. Push through your feet, come all the way up towards the sky. We'll stay here for a few rounds of breath stretching. Think about thighs back, ribs in, lengthen. Exhale, straight into your forward fold. Inhale, heart forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Plant your hands, either go straight back to downward facing dog or move through a vinyasa. Inhale, right leg up to the sky. If the ribs doesn't pull forward, it will try to turn your leg out towards the right. So keep your hips intentionally squared to the floor. Imagine the ball of your right foot was on a wall and that you could push your right foot into the wall as you push down through your hands. Then step your right foot forward between your hands. Lengthen your spine forward, and this time bring your left knee down to the floor. You could fold your mat over, or you could throw a blanket under it if you like to spoil your knees. And then come up, hands on your hips. Walk the front foot forward so it's right under the knee. We want to avoid having the knee too far past the ankle. With your hands on your hips, notice if your pelvis is more anteriorly tilted, meaning it's moving forward, or posterior tilted, and try to make it more neutral to the floor. And then do the same thing with the ribs. Touch the ribs. Is it more like anteriorly flared, tipping forward, or posterior flared, tipping down? Yeah, and then stretch both arms up to the sky. This is the main psoas stretch, all the people say, because you can just lean into your psoas, but I find it much more effective to actively lengthen it. Side stretch up and over to the left. Push down through the left knee, push down through the right heel. Come up through center, up and over to the right. Back through center, plant your hands, downward facing dog. Right into the second side. Inhale, left leg lift. Hips squared, ribs in, push through your hands and stretch out through the left foot. Work the left foot forward between your hands. Right knee lowers to the floor. Come on up, lunge. Whatever we repeat is gonna get stronger. So if you go to yoga class without checking in on your alignment, you'll get a lot of benefits, but you might not change your posture and joint issues. So neutral pelvis, neutral ribs, and then arms up. Push powerfully down through the legs as you reach up through the ribs. And then side stretch up and over to the right. Come back up through center, side stretch up and over to the left. This is one that gets a little bit more bang for it, because your back leg is stretched back. Come back up through center. Plant your hands, downward facing dog. Deep breath, letting your breath move through your whole body. The body functions the best when energy is moving through it. So when we hold our breath, we don't breathe fully or hold in our emotions, that we get this stuck motion. That's where we get this stuck energy, where we get this other layer of built up tension and stress. Come down to your knees. All right, table position. We're gonna do threaded needle. So twists are great because they move the attachment sites away from each other if you don't allow yourself to turn too much. So hands on the floor. Let's go right fingertips a little bit forward, and then we're gonna take the left forearm down. You can stay here or you can thread your left arm all the way through. I think the best attitude to have as I'm learning my body's tendencies is curiosity and humor. So every time I do something and I'm like, oh, my hips just turn to the right to avoid this stretch. And then try to turn your hips to the left. So the hips are neutral, and then think about pushing your inner thighs backwards towards the wall behind you as you inflate the back of your rib cage up to the sky. And breathe long and deep, using the breath to signal to the diaphragm and your reptilian brain that you're not in threat of being attacked by a bear. And you don't need to have those hormones pulsing through your body. As you inhale, come back up through center. Pause and table for a moment. Let's see if you can be so subtle that you can feel the effect it had on your body. We're trained to be that subtle. I'm not necessarily there yet, but it's a good goal. Left fingertips on the floor, right arm wraps through. With your curiosity and humor, notice if your butt just swayed over to the left. Rotate your hips to the right. So I could put a teapot on it and it wouldn't fall down. When you sway it to the right, it might pull your ribs down to the floor more. So continue to try to crunch the ribs in, so the back, mid-back rounds, as you untuck your sitting bones. So you inhale, unwind, back to table. And then come to stand up on your knees. Great. Is this kind of making sense? Are you kind of feeling like your psoas and the way it like never actually does just one thing? Okay. Awkward silence is like a clear yes. Okay, take your right foot over to the right. So this is a modified version of Warrior Two. I like to take the right foot over to the right enough that I can lunge into it. Yes, without it going past your ankle. So was it Carmen? Thought I got it. Close. You're Carmen. Okay, front knee over your ankle. So hands on your hips. Are you more of a booty out person or a roly-poly person? Like the bug. Neutral pelvis and then hands on your ribs. It really works for me if I imagine my rib cage as kittens and I'm like kittens down, but no pelvis back. And then stretch your arms out. Reverse warrior. Once you've got your attachment sites slightly better adjusted, see if you can stretch them more by pushing into the ground and stretching out through your fingertips and crown of the head. And then come forward, elbow to thigh. Stretch the top arm up and over. Ribs in, inner thighs expand backwards. Stretch. One more time, reverse warrior. You can stay here or you can take your fingertips back more to the floor or the block and do like a modified wild thing. Try to breathe calmness into your muscles and joints. Use your core to come all the way back up. Right. And then we're going to extend the right leg towards the right, and we're going to ground the right foot towards me. So the four corners of the right foot are on the floor, and they're facing in the same direction as your hips. And then bring your hands down to the floor. So you're in table again, but your legs extended. And we're going to do that same threaded needle, but it'll be a little bit different since our leg is extended. So right fingertips on the floor. Thread your left forearm on the floor or through. Rotate your booty to the left and pull your ribs in and use your breath to create more space between the ribs and the bowl of the pelvis. Right knee can have a slight bend to it, and think about pushing the top of your right thigh bone backward towards the upper attachment of the right hamstring. Inhale, come back through center. We're going to twist in the opposite direction. So this one's a little bit more intense. Left fingertips on the floor. Start this one with just your right forearm on the ground. Neutral pelvis. Hips turning to the right as the chest turns to the left. Maybe the right arm extends further forward towards the left. If your head or shoulders feel like they're in a weird position, you can move them a little bit. Neutral pelvis, femur bones pushing into the upper hamstrings, ribs in. Breathe long and deep. Awesome. Inhale, unwind. Come back up so you're kneeling on your knees. If you can pause for a moment and tell any difference. Just the trying to tell is a great meditation for bringing you into the moment. And then open your eyes, extend your left leg over to the left, modified warrior two. Lunge your knee over your ankle. Adjust the pelvis and the ribs, and then stretch the arms. Imagine you have like weights on your hips that are pulling your pelvis down, and like a hot air balloon attached to your rib cage, pulling your ribs up. So even in this kind of basic pose, getting a deeper stretch because of what you're intrinsically working on, these small actions. Back hand on your hip, reverse warrior. Come on up, elbow to thigh, top arm over your head. Can you tell if your right hip is lunging forward? If it is, draw it back, or is it your right rib that's sticking out? Pull it in. Very nice, Adrian. Come back up through second, center. Reverse warrior, maybe fingertips to the floor or a block. The deeper we go in a pose, the more the body will sacrifice its joints so you look cool. So try to not let your joints do that for you. Use your muscles, come back up. Okay, we'll get ready for that leg extended table. So left leg straight, left foot spins flat, pinky edge on the floor. Yeah, hinge forward. Even here in table, what's your pattern? Is it butt rounding under or is it ribs dropping? See if you can use some of your refined alignment to come into a more neutral spine. And then we'll start by twisting to the left fingertips on the floor, left forearm or hand comes through. Try to turn your butt towards the right as your chest turns to the left. Breathe into the back of the rib cage, the back of the lungs. You might be able to get your breath to move from the back of your floating ribs all the way down to the base of your tailbone. Inhale back up through center. Right fingertips on the floor, left forearm down. Belly button to head twist to the right is belly button to sit bones twist to the left. Maybe thread your arm deeper through. You can get an extra nice hamstring stretch in here if you keep a slight bend in your left knee and think about pushing the top of your left femur bone straight back towards the wall behind you. Yeah, so much length. Inhale, come on up. Plant your hands, downward facing dog. We're going to use the blanket one more time. So if you have it there, you don't need to move it. Inhale, come forward to plank. Lower down, chaturanga. This time we're going to do something called I call it spider cobra. So fingertips come out to the side like a spider walking on the floor. Thumbs face towards you, fingertips face away. Now legs squeeze together, pinky toes down. Now push into your hands until you can look at your belly button. So this is a great way to make your ribs draw in. Keep your ribs in, now look straight forward. Now use your hands and try to pull your chest forward as you push your throat back and draw your heart forward. But try to elongate through your torso, stretch back through your feet. I really like to do drunken cobra here, where you then kind of like sway yourself forward. Like you're a snake and someone's playing the flute for you. It's encouraging spontaneous movement. Now lengthen, lengthen, lengthen as you lower down. Great, plant to your hands, press back downward to facing dog. Right, inner thighs back, floating ribs up, push down through your hands, down through your feet. Little bend in your knees, especially if you're wearing shorts. Inhale, right leg up to the sky. Step your right foot forward between your hands, put your left knee down on the floor or a cushion, come on up. So this version of lunge, I like to be pretty narrow, so not too long. And we're gonna do a quad stretch. Before we do, so put your right hand on your left floating rib and your left hand on the front of your hip. And with your left hand on your hip, push it back and be really sensitive and notice if your left rib moves forward. Now push your left rib in. Oh, this is the one that always gets me. And notice if your left hip comes forward. And try to make them move as little as possible. And anyone's move, and then reach back for your back foot. So the hand can come down to the thigh or the hip. That's all about the position we take with our muscle attachment. So imagine engaging your left inner thigh and rotating your left inner thigh backwards as your left kitten or rib draws down. Stay here or stretch your right arm up. You can stay here, or I like to take my hand to my hip and walk my front foot more forward. Back foot active. Maybe even squeezing your left glute as you push down through the left knee. Ribs in. And if you're not sure if your ribs are in, try looking down to your belly button. And if it changed, your ribs could have been in more. Ribs in, now head forward. Awesome. Release your back foot, fingertips to the floor. Straighten your back legs, they're on the ball of your back foot. And then we're going to take your left heel down to the floor, pinky edge parallel to the back of your yoga mat. And then your choice, either right elbow to the thigh or right fingertips to the floor or block. Now go thighs back, ribs in, and then stretch your top arm up over your ear. Nice, Becky, looking good. All right, bring your left hand to your hip, look forward, take your right fingertips to the floor or a block or a blanket roll, Ardha Chandrasana. Imagine your back was up against a wall here and you could push your butt into the wall, inner thighs back to the wall, and back of your rib cage to the wall. Push into your right foot, come all the way up to standing, catch your left knee in your hand. If your foot needs to come to the floor, that's totally fine. We're gonna do a quad stretch here. So holding onto the left foot, inner thighs back, ribs in, stretch your top arm up. Push down through your left knee and right foot as you reach up through your torso. Stay here or hinge forward at your hips, bringing your chest parallel to the floor. Stretch back with your left knee, forward with your chest. Maybe kick your back foot into your hands, but keep crunching your ribs in. Ugh. And then when you're done, come on up. Shake out your body. Great way of releasing stuck emotions. Okay, really nice. Stand at the top of your yoga mat, inhale, arms up to the sky. Push through your feet. Exhale, hinge forward, belly draws in. Inhale, hands to your thighs, long spine. Pause here and notice how your long spine is helping you lengthen your psoas. Is it lengthening your psoas or is it strengthening your tendency? Plant your hands, step back, downward facing dog, and stretch your left leg up to the sky. Great, work your left foot forward between your hands. Take your right knee to the floor for a low lunge. Set up for your quad stretch, reach back for your foot. You can either have your hand on your foot and like spread your toes like a pointed foot, point/flex, or you can hold your ankle and flex your foot, but really helpful for the knee to have activity in the back foot. Okay, thighs back, ribs in, maybe looking towards your belly, and then stretch the left arm up. Push down at the right knee. Breathe into the back of your rib cage. Stay here or take your hand down to your hip or your back foot. Work your left foot more forward. Maybe engage the back leg as you do this. All the feels. Right, release the back foot, fingertips to the floor, high runner's lunge prep. Ground your right heel to the floor, right toes spin to the right, and then left fingertips come to the floor or elbow to the thigh. Top of the right thigh back and ribs in as you stretch. Left shoulder squeezes into the shoulder socket. Really nice. Right hand on your hip, press up in balance, Ardha Chandrasana. You can use a floor raiser here if you'd like. Butt back, ribs in, lots of breath. And push down through your left foot, come all the way up, standing balance. The foot taps, that's fine. And then once you make it upright, grab your right foot in your right hand. Think about positioning to create something other than your habit. Lengthen up. Push down through the right knee, up through the left hand. Keep that stretching length. Maybe hinge forward at your left hip. Body coming parallel-ish to the floor. Stretch forward and back. Maybe kick the back foot into the hand. Come on up. Close your eyes. So the body always wants to be in motion, right? That's why they say if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Your body's always atrophying without your intervention. Same thing with emotions. If you don't let your emotions move, that's how they become emotions. It's motion, energy that's stuck. Emotion. Pretty cool, right? So that should give you more motivation to then let your body move in a way that like every joint moves. Yeah, good. You're getting better at that. Just imagine like good music playing. Okay, we're gonna do one more back bend. Back bends are really good for the psoas because they move the attachment sites away from each other. But what tends to happen is the ribs flare. So keep your ribs strong. Stand on your right foot, catch your left foot in your hand. You can either do the quad stretch, so staying upright. You can do the hinged forward back bend like we just did, or you can try to stay more upright with your torso as you kick your back foot in your hand. If you can balance, you can try to look down to your ribs so you get more crunching action. Keep that and then bring your head forward again. Oh. Nice. Come on up. Switch sides. Second foot comes up. Pause and breathe as you decide which variation you're going to do. And moving into it. Engaging your mid-belly like I'm about to punch you. You're tightening up so the blow's not so big. Come on up. Close your eyes. Shake out your feet and your hands and your arm and your head and your hips and your ribs and your chest and your toes. Nice. Okay, let's come down onto the floor. Actually, let's do one more thing up here. Let's do wide legs. So you can have your feet off of the mat or you can spin in a direction. Fingertips to the floor. Option 1, left fingertips on the floor, right hand on your hip. Option 2, right fingertips on the floor, left arm threads through, maybe fist on the floor or holding your leg. Just like in table, the pelvis is going to want to turn with your face. So turn your hips away from your face, drag the sitting bones more up to the sky, and then puff up through the back of the ribs. Shoulders widen and integrate into the shoulders, loose neck. Push powerfully down through your feet. Inhale, unwind and lengthen. Switch sides, either right hand on the floor, left hand on your hip, open body twist, or left fingertips on the floor, right arm threads through and maybe grab somewhere, cross body twist. Hips rotate away from your face as you use your hands to twist your chest up towards the sky. Ribs inflated, thighs back. Use your breath to bring in more length and the ability to release. They say that most of the wounds that we carry, the scarring that we carry, we got before we turned 7 years old. That's some deep wounds. You gotta breathe real deep to get rid of those ones. Inhale, unwind. Lengthen, and then bring your feet together. Awesome. Come to lay on your back. Have a block nearby if you have one. Okay. So soles of the feet on the floor. Push into your feet, lift your hips up, and take your block under your back. If you have a block, start with the lowest level. These are my favorite psoas stretches. So let the ribs soften down. So if your hands were on them, they wouldn't be poking up into your hands. And then push your butt down to the floor. Now pull your right knee into your chest. So we did this on our back starting class. And try to avoid letting the butt round. So as the knee comes in, meet it by pushing the hips down. If when you pull the knee in, your chest lifts up, your ribs lift up, keep those down. And then extend your left leg forward on the floor, left heel on the ground. Try to rotate your pubic bone more forward, inner left thigh more to the floor. And then push out through the inside edge of the left foot as you pull your right knee closer into your chest. Think about pulling your legs in both opposite directions. Keep your right hand on your right knee, left hand comes to your hip as a monitor to make sure you're not going to lift it, and then open your right knee over to the right. Push your right knee into your right hand, push your left hip towards your left foot. Then come back through center, soles of the feet on the floor. Make any little minor adjustment and then switch sides. Left knee pulls in, right leg extends forward. You can get much more out of this stretch if you're a little bit more intentional in your small actions. Pushing out through the inner edge of the right foot, left knee pulls in. Right hand moves to your right hip, open your left knee to the left. Think about pulling the hips away from each other as you keep stretching through the inner edge of your right knee and pulling your right rib in. All right, come back through center, soles of the feet on the floor. So we're going to repeat that one more time. If you're on a block, you can move it to the next level up. I'm not sure, you might be able to move your little blanket up a level. You can experiment with that, or just where you are is great. Right knee to the chest. Left leg extends forward, left heel on the floor. Your psoas will try to not change positions, and it will do this by turning your left toes to the left. So you'd feel more of the earth on the outside edge of the left heel. So try to rotate the toes straight up to the sky. Yeah, and knee in, push out through the foot. Okay, if you're on the opposite side, which is fine, just do the opposite of the side cue. Left hand on your hip, right knee opens to the right. Keep the left hip down as you push the right knee out into the right hand. Ribs in. That low grade or maybe high grade level of fear that's like coursing through the society, some of that at least is getting held in your psoas. So just try to let that go. That doesn't need to be stored in this muscle. Bring your knee back up through center. Stay here for a few more rounds of breath, or you can take your hands behind your right thigh and begin to straighten the leg. Butt pushes down, ribs stay in, stretch out through both feet. Your leg might start to jump for joy. If it's trembling, that's just very joyful. Bring the soles of both feet down to the floor. Pause for a moment and integrate. And switch sides, left knee in, right leg forward. Try to get the right heel centered on the floor so the foot isn't turning out to the right. Left hand holds the left knee, right hand to your hip, open the left knee up to the left. Flex the bottom foot and stretch out through the inner edge of the foot. Come back to center, take the hands optional behind the leg as you straighten both legs. Think about pushing your inner thighs away from your face as you pull the ribs in and stretch. Really nice. Soles of the feet to the floor. Stretch both of your arms up behind you towards the wall behind you. Take a sigh through your mouth. Inhale deeply. One more. All right, push into your feet, lift your hips up, slide your prop out from underneath your hips, open your arms wide like a T. Let your knees knock from one side to the other. Feet are active, butts on the floor, windshield wiping the knees. The next time the knees come all the way over to the right, keep them there. You could even walk your left knee, your left foot a little bit towards the left. So your left knee is almost in line with your left hip. And then you, from your hip, try to push your left knee forward to the front of the room as you draw the back of the left rib cage to the floor. If your knees don't mind this, you can take your right foot to your left knee and help pull your left knee forward. Rib in. Imagining more dark sludge being released from your psoas. Coming back up through center, hips over to the knees over to the left. Maybe walking the right foot backwards a little bit so the right knee and right hip are more in one line. Pushing out through the right knee, pulling the rib in and up to the face. Maybe using your foot to help lengthen the knee forward. Bring your knees back up through center. Soles of the feet on the floor, do some little pelvic tilts. Yeah. And come back up through center and shake your butt side to side, but with the butt on the floor, like you're drying your glutes off on a towel vigorously. Isn't that kind of nice? Yeah, yes, I know it is. And then feet forward, feet wide. With your feet wide and on the floor, point your toes forward and back and kind of shake out the whole body. And kind of like make any little minor adjustments. Maybe drawing the shoulders more together, walking the arms closer to your hips until you find a position you can relax. Shavasana is so important because it's a chance for us to totally relax, and in that total relaxation, some of these muscles that are chronically tight, either from overuse or from holding on to these emotions or holding on to stress, they get to relax too. Try to avoid making your lists or having your dialogue in your head. Instead, see if you can surrender the weight of your body to the floor and let yourself kind of flow in this inner space you've created. A little bit longer here. See if you can relax any deeper. And then begin to wiggle your toes and your fingers. Maybe stretching your arms towards the wall behind you. One last full body stretch. And then when you're ready, bending your knees and rolling over to one side. And eventually pressing yourself up into seated meditation. And bringing your awareness back, feeling that your awareness is a little bit more trained. So all change starts with awareness. If you want a more lengthened psoas, if you want to hold less fear in your body or feel less stressed out, all of that first starts with awareness that then allows us to make changes to create a different outcome. Draw your hands in front of your heart. It's a great quote from Liz Koch. I feel like I say her name wrong. Something like that. She writes, the psoas is an organ of perception composed of biointelligent tissue embodying our deepest urges for survival and the desire to flourish. So our psoas can either be clenched with fear, or it's in this area where our power and our deepest energy lies. It can help unlock that so we can thrive. Pretty cool. Let's end with one Om. Take a deep breath in and out.